Well, hello, I'm Tom Stapleton, director of the Wakefield Community Access Television Station. And we have a wonderful guest today that we've had before, but it's been a while. Senator Jason Lewis, sitting to my right. It's wonderful to have you back. And
thank you, Tom. It's great to be back with you.
We can get together and go over some of the hot items that are going on in town, or in the state, I should say. And I think that I really appreciate you coming. And also, I do want to make a compliment, give you rather a compliment, or your office or your staff. Thomas Dalton, an amazing guy, a really great guy. I mean, anytime something comes up that I need an answer to or something, he's right there. You have a person that don't lose him. He's really, really good, and I've always enjoyed spending time with him.
Well, thanks for mentioning that,
Yeah.
Tom. And for our viewers who may not know, Tom is talking about a gentleman who helps me in my office, and I have a few staff members, and they are amazing, mostly young people, and public service is what motivates them. People who work in the legislature and state government, don't get paid all that much, so they really do it because they're committed to to serving our community and our Commonwealth. And so thanks for mentioning that. Appreciate it.
Quite all right, and I'm sorry. I hope I don't offend anybody else in your staff, but I don't know anybody but Tom, so don't take that personal. Anyways, I have a couple of questions I'd like to run by you, and maybe you could expel on that, or expand rather. First of all, you're the Senate Chair of the Education Committee this session. What's the biggest piece of education policy you're working on?
Yes, that's right. This is a new assignment for me, actually, in the state Senate, which is to be the chair of the Education Committee. I've been very involved in education issues ever since I was first elected. Making sure our schools are well supported and well funded is a top priority for me. But this is my first time in the legislature serving as the chair of the committee, so that's been a great new responsibility. And our main focus this entire year has been on putting together legislation to fix our school funding formula. And that is a very important and complicated formula. It was originally put in place about 25 years ago, and it determines how much state funding is provided to every school district in Massachusetts. And the whole idea behind the formula is to make sure that every school district, Wakefield, Melrose, Holyoke, Brockton, Boston, everybody has the funding they need to make sure that we provide every child with a great public school education. Because here in Massachusetts, for hundreds of years, we've been committed to the idea that every child should have access to a high-quality public education. So the formula had really good intentions, but unfortunately, over time, it's fallen out of date, and it hasn't really kept up with all of the costs that our schools are incurring. Special high costs for special needs, for educating students that are not native English speakers, for example. Healthcare costs have exceeded what we expected. New technology that our schools need, lots of different things. So this legislation that we've put together to fix this and to make sure that our public schools do have the state funding and resources and support they need is very exciting. It's called the Student Opportunity Act. And we released the bill from the Education Committee in September, and we had a lot of media. We had a press conference, and there was a lot of media attention around that because it's a very important issue for the state, and we've been working on it for some time. And then just 2 weeks ago, the state Senate debated the bill. It was a debate that went all the way into the evening, and it got passed unanimously with Republicans and Democrats voting for it. And now we're expecting the House of Representatives to take up the bill actually next week. So here we are in mid-October, so in late October, and we're very hopeful we can get the final bill on Governor Baker's desk before the end of the year. And this would really be a very, very important piece of legislation for public education in Massachusetts.
How does it look? How does it look at this point? I mean, you're just about there, and what do you
Well,
think?
I feel very optimistic.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of support from people in and my colleagues in the legislature. We've been working closely with our teachers from around the state, superintendents, parents have been very involved in this process, students. I've had a chance to travel around the state over the course of this year to meet with and hear from lots of different groups, including teachers and parents and students and community groups to get their feedback. So there's a lot of support for this legislation. So I'm very hopeful we will get it signed into law.
Well, that's good, because that's called the Student Opportunity Act effect.
Student Opportunity Act. That's it.
Act.
Student Opportunity Act.
Act.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Well, we have that question done. Maybe we can move to the next one. Do you think that? Well, let's see. You've been very busy involved in the past with healthcare policy. Any major legislation on the healthcare this session?
Yes, actually, before I answer that, one other thing I meant to add about the Student Opportunity Act is it will be very beneficial for Wakefield also. Specifically, I wanted to just mention that in a number of ways, it will lead to increased state funding, what's known as Chapter 78 for Wakefield, which will be helpful. It will also provide new funding to help with the cost of special education, particularly for students that have very high needs and some of whom have to be educated out of the district in special schools. This legislation will help cover those costs as well. Yeah. So that's the second way it will help Wakefield. And then the third way, which is very important, is we are trying to build a new high school here. Obviously, here we are sitting in the high school building right now as we record the show, and we know we really need to rebuild the high school to make sure it's a modern, high-quality facility for our students and educators. And this legislation, the Student Opportunity Act, is going to increase funding for the Massachusetts School Building Program. So that is going to make it more likely that the high school project in Wakefield can get accepted into the state's program, which is very important to move the project forward. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Well, that is very important, because
that's important for the town
Wakefield's looking
and the
to
students.
get some of those areas taken care of.
That's right. That's right. So in terms of health care, that's another high priority issue for me personally and for the legislature. And it's really about trying to bring down the cost, or at least control the cost increases for health care. Because we know that health insurance premiums are a big burden for many of our families and our seniors and our businesses. And also the out-of-pocket costs, for co-pays and deductibles are a big burden as well. And one of the main drivers is prescription drug costs.
Yeah.
We have actually done a pretty good job in our Massachusetts controlling other healthcare costs, but prescription drugs have continued to just go up and up and up. And so I have filed legislation. This session, I'm working with an organization called Healthcare for All, which is a wonderful patient advocacy group. We have a lot of other partners as well. And I'm expecting that legislation to be taken up and debated by the state Senate, hopefully sometime in the very near future, because there's a lot of desire to take steps to help make sure that prescription drugs are available for patients who need them, but that they're also affordable for patients and for our healthcare system.
That's a big one.
Yes.
That's a big one. Wakefield residents and town officials have talked a lot over the years about local economic development, especially in the downtown. Are you involved in efforts to revitalize the Main Street program here?
Definitely. So we've been working for some time, myself, Representative Wong and Representative Broder. We're the legislative delegation for the town of Wakefield, and it's a high priority for us to work with the town administrator, Steve Mayo, and the town council, and the Chamber of Commerce, and the Main Streets Initiative to really support ways to revitalize the Wakefield downtown, because it's a wonderful downtown. It has many great assets, good businesses already. It has access to Lake Quannapowitt and close to major obviously highways, but also the commuter rail station. So we've got a lot of good bones. And what we're doing is working on strategies to continue to bring more economic activity into the downtown, new businesses, restaurants. We are also supporting the cultural district with the Albion Cultural Exchange, which we've been investing in with local dollars and state dollars to promote the arts. So recently we welcomed the Massachusetts Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. His name is Secretary Mike Keneally. He works directly for Governor Baker. We invited him to come visit Wakefield, and he got a briefing on what the town's doing to revitalize the downtown area. And we took a tour. He got to see personally. So what we're doing is we're building support for hopefully also securing additional state funding to help with some of the improvements that we want to make to improve the streetscape, the sidewalks, to make it safer for pedestrians and other modes of transportation, and again to help encourage even more businesses to locate in the downtown.
Where would that funding come from, that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so there's some different sources potentially, but one big program we're looking at is called the Mass Works program, and it's a grant program that is a state-run program. The legislature funds it, and for example, in the city of Malden, which I also represent, folks may know there's a major redevelopment going on in their downtown. And that has been supported in part with some Mass Works grants. So it would be a similar initiative that we would be looking to try to tap into to support the efforts here in Wakefield.
When you say grant, where does that come from?
So within the state budget that we pass each year, we provide funding for a whole host of different programs, for obviously for our healthcare, for our public schools, for transportation, and for economic development. So there's funding that we provide, and some of that is for the Mass Works program. And then, but then there's a competitive process for cities and towns to present proposals to then secure a grant. So that's one option, but we're looking at some other options as well. But in the meantime, of course, the town has been making good progress, working with a consulting firm, running focus groups so that residents can weigh in on what they'd like to see. There's a lot of challenges. We want to make sure there's adequate parking, for example, and that it's safe for pedestrians to and very welcoming for people to come to the downtown, eat, to dine, to shop, to experience the arts, to make it a real destination.
Well, it has an awful lot going for it, especially with the lake and so on. It's a big draw, and I know the town's been working on this and yourself for quite a while. So it looks like some progress is coming along. And
that's right.
That's good to see.
I'm optimistic. There's a lot of potential, and I think we're moving. We're heading in the right direction.
Oh, another question. The recent youth-led climate strikes and electricity blackouts in California are bringing climate change into stark relief for many people. What kind of work are you doing on climate change and sustainability?
Right. So another really important issue, right? This is really about our future for our communities and our world, right? Our planet, in terms of addressing and mitigating the effect of climate change, rising sea levels, greater storm frequency, a lot of other impacts. What we've been doing in Massachusetts and locally, I think the town's also been doing a lot in this area, is to, obviously become more energy efficient and to move away from fossil fuels to using clean energy, solar and wind.
Right.
And for example, we are underway right now with developing offshore wind energy. And we are going to, once we build this out over the next 5 years or so, we will have the largest offshore wind energy facilities anywhere in the entire country. It'll be one of the largest in the world. It's a huge area of the ocean just south of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And we, in the state legislature, with support of Governor Patrick and now Governor Baker, we have passed several bills to help facilitate and support the development of offshore wind energy. So it's going to be a major new industry for Massachusetts, going to create lots of jobs, lots of other activity, and it's all about, bringing clean, renewable energy for our homes and businesses and replacing dirty fossil fuels. So that's really exciting what's happening there. And we're also looking for other ways to, again, make that transition to a clean, green economy. There's a lot of opportunity for Massachusetts to be a leader in this. And I really appreciate our young people because they are speaking up, and the climate strike was a good example of that. And, they know that their future is at stake, and I really applaud their efforts, students right here in Wakefield and really around the state and the world for getting involved and advocating for urgent action to be taken on the town level, the state level, the national level to address climate change impacts. And I also want to put in a plug for a community conversation that I'm hosting coming up later this month. I believe the date is the 29th of October. It's actually going to be at the Reading Public Library.
Okay.
And we're going to have a great panel of speakers, and it's all about addressing climate change and specifically how green technology is, which is being developed right here in Massachusetts, is going to be a big part of helping us address climate change. So October 29th, stay tuned for more details, but anyone who's interested in this topic, we hope you join us that evening at Reading Public Library for a very important conversation, I think, on that topic.
Just one little side note. On the wind farm, I guess that's what you call it.
Yep.
Do they have a date where that might be for completion?
So there are actually several projects that are all developing, these major, these are huge wind turbines. I got a sense of this recently. The length of the blade is 100 meters. Wow. Think about that. That's
just one blade.
One blade.
Yeah.
And then each turbine has 3 blades.
Yeah.
100 meters is a football field. Wow. So these are enormous wind turbines, and they can be, that area, the reason that there's so much opportunity for Massachusetts is because that's the continental shelf.
Oh.
So the ocean is not that deep. So you can actually, it's shallow enough that the wind turbines can be put right into the ocean bed, into the floor. So that's why it makes it a very desirable place to install these. So it'll take some time, but I would say over the next 2 to 5 years, we'll see these wind farms being installed and connected to the grid. But it'll be built out over the next few years. But it's several different developments within that area of the ocean. We do have to make sure we work closely with the fishing industry, so that we don't impinge on that. But there's certainly enough room out there in the ocean to I think to support both wind farms and fishing and protect obviously the marine life as well.
Well, that's good. I have finished with my questions at this point, but
so now we're going to do something special.
Yes, I understand.
So for at least 5 years, we've been doing our show together. Yeah. Since I became a state senator, and it's been always a pleasure to sit down with you, Tom. And you've asked me questions, and I've given the folks, our viewers, an update on what's happening, in the town and on Beacon Hill. But now we're going to turn the tables.
Yes.
I'm going to become the interviewer. Yeah. You're going to be the interviewee. All because right. for our viewers who may not know, Tom is going to be retiring from WCAT. And do
you hear the cheers out there? I can hear them now.
No, I can see the tears that people are shedding. No, in all seriousness, you're going to be sorely missed, Tom. You've been involved with WCAT for 16 years, right? 16. I know 14 years as the director, and then 2 years prior to that as on the board.
Right.
And you've been incredibly dedicated to the success of WCAT. And as I shared with you at the just when we were getting ready for this show, I think that local journalism is so important to keep the community informed as to what's happening.
Yeah.
And WCAT, with your leadership, has done a tremendous job of that. You know, you're always I always see you at every community event and just keeping the community engaged in what's happening. So, you know, we really appreciate it, and
thank
you're
you.
going to be
Thank
missed.
you.
And so I have a few questions for you.
Oh boy! All right.
So my first question for you
Yeah.
is, you could tell our viewers maybe how you got involved with WCAT, because I know it was a kind of a career change for you.
It was, yes, exactly. Well, to make to give you a little smattering about how it came about, I was in business for myself for about 20 years, and I learned a lot about communities, people, and so on. And running a business like I had required a 7-day week job.
Mm-hmm.
It was every day was Friday for me. So, but anyway, so I decided that after a while that it's time to hang that up, and I was looking in the paper here at Wakefield, the item, and there was this ad that came in. They were looking for producers at WCAT.
Okay.
And I always liked television. I got involved with it in my past a little bit here and there and so on. So I went to the studio, and it turned out to be a snowy night. So I was the only one that came. And this young man, Sean Downs, was there, and he was the one that walked me through the whole studio and everything. And I'm looking around. I said, "Gee, this is kind of fun. I'd like to do this." So. So I started volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Robert Haig was the executive director at that point, and I liked it. And we were at the Montrose School then, and now
Okay.
the Montrose School was sold, so we needed a new location.
Yes.
And Robert Haig put this together with some of the people from the town council, because they were selectmen back then, and decided the space would be given to us. So we had it built out. I was involved in. He had it built out, and we really enjoyed it. So I'd come here and volunteer and so on, and learned how to switch, learned how to do the audio, and so on like that, and it became really, really fun. So they asked me, Robert asked me if I wanted to go on the board, and I said, well, that sounds good too. So I got on the board for a couple of years as treasurer, and being in business, I had a good feel for that, so that worked out well. And then Robert Haig decided to leave, and he decided that he wanted to go to another cable access station. So they brought in Ron Cox. He was the person that came in, and he stayed here for a while.
Okay.
And
He's now in Malden.
he's
right?
in Malden,
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, he came from Wakefield.
From Wakefield, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And so he went to Malden, and the job here became available, the executive director. And it was one of those things that it's pretty hard to explain. And I said, well, I really enjoy this. And there's a lot I don't know about this business. And but I'm going to give it a shot. So I said in my mind, you know what, I can do this. And that was what sold me. I convinced myself that, I can do this. So I decided to take the position, and came into the studio, and I said, now what do I do? What have I done here?
What have I gotten myself into? Well, you certainly are a quick
so-
study, because you figured it out, and
So it worked out well.
absolutely, wow. So one thing really led to another, and
Yeah.
just serendipity. So maybe you could share with us, maybe a highlight from your 14 years as the director. Maybe something that stands out in your mind as a special experience you might want to share with us.
Well, that's a good question, and it's kind of it involves a longer period of time than I was here, because I realized that this is something that I wanted to do, and it got to the point where a 12 or 15-hour day wasn't work. It was fun. And I found something that I said, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And I'm meeting a lot of people, and we're getting stuff done, and the shows are starting to develop, and so on like that. And I would wake up every morning, not just dying to get back down here, to continue the day and so on like that. And I think that was one of the highlights in my life, that I found something even later on in your life
Yes.
that
Yes.
is very fulfilling and rewarding. I would say that would probably be one of the
That's
highest
great. I mean,
moments in my life.
that's a wonderful thing in life,
Mm-hmm.
right? To find a job that you'd love doing,
Yeah.
and you would
Yeah.
and probably be doing it even if you weren't even paid. You just
That's right. No,
It's
exactly.
something you love
And then,
doing, and
it's
it's a
and then,
great thing to find that.
it's just amazing. And I just can't well, I can't realize, or I can realize rather, it's about 14 years. I mean, I can't believe, at least as a director,
Time
how
flies.
fast that went. I'm sitting here talking to you on this for 14 years. Wow.
Yep.
And
It's amazing how
it
time flies.
just flies
I
by.
assume you've got a great team here. I assume you're going to miss them, and what else will you really miss?
Yeah, the team is good. The staff. It took a while to develop to this point, but I have Ryan. Ryan will be taking over
Okay.
as executive director, and then I have Ian, who is our technical person. And believe me, it's something that you need to have on a business like this. And the guy is great. He's just great. He'll put anything together. Then I have Adam, who is our one of our editors and so on like that. And he does an amazing job. He comes from the networks, and he decided that he wanted to do something in this area, and
Great.
it was just a great reward for us. He did a wonderful job. And of course we have Barbara.
Yes.
Barbara is she runs the show.
Yes.
She really does. I mean, and she does a great job. And she's sort of like a Tom for you, I guess,
Right,
right.
right.
But Tom Dalton. But it's always reminding me of something and making sure that this gets done. And it's just
That's
a great crew.
Well, you complimented my staff before at
Yeah,
the beginning,
yeah.
so let me return the favor, and I'll compliment your team that you have, and it's a credit to you as the leader that you have a great team that is so skilled and does their job so well. And really, I've had a chance to to visit a variety of local access studios in my time in office, quite a few, and WCAT is just really top notch.
Well,
top
that's-
notch. You do a great job.
It's nice to hear. It is.
So
Very nice, thank you.
last question for you. Of
Yeah.
course, everyone wants to know, what are you going to be doing in retirement?
doing?
How are you going to spend your time?
Well, it's retirement is a word to me, and I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be looking for another challenge. And,
You're not just going to take it easy?
well, I don't know. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. I am going on a cruise.
Great.
Before I leave, I'm going to go on a cruise, which I've never been in my life, and I've always wanted to do it. So that's taking the time to do that.
Where's
so.
the cruise going from
Well,
and to?
we're going out of New York,
Uh-huh.
going to Aruba, Antigua, and there's another place. My sister's putting this all together, so
Okay.
she's really good at that. But it's a 10-day cruise.
Great.
So you're going to be we'll be out in the ocean quite a bit. And I just always wanted to do this, and so we'll have a great time and so on
Sounds
like that. So I'm looking
wonderful.
forward to that.
Great.
That's coming up soon. And then on December 4th, we're going to have an annual meeting at the Crystal Community Club here in Wakefield. And with that, they'll have, I guess, something going on. They're not telling me.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what's going on.
It's secret.
It's a secret, but you're welcome. Obviously, if you can make it, I'd love to have you there. I'm sure invitations will be going out, but they're keeping that from me, so I don't know exactly what's going on. I just show up.
Yes.
Just show up there and so on like
And
that.
then after that will be the next chapter in your
Yeah,
life.
the next
No doubt
chapter,
you
yeah.
you will stay busy and engaged in the community, I'm sure.
Oh, well, that's another
right?
thing,
And you'll be
too.
active on
Yeah.
Rotary still,
Oh, yeah.
right? You're
Still-
very
yeah.
active with the local
Stay
Rotary.
with Rotary.
A lot of good community service projects there.
I think if you ask me what I'm going to miss the most, which maybe that'd have been your next question,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I think what I'll miss, but not that it's going to change a little bit, but the community here in Wakefield. I'm just so in touch with it.
Yes.
And there's so many great people, and a lot of great relationships and friendships have developed, and I'd really rather not lose those,
Right.
because that's very
Right.
important.
And you don't need to, right?
yeah.
Because
No.
you'll still be involved in the community, and
I will still
I'm
be,
sure
yeah.
there'll be lots of community groups looking to recruit you to work with them. And
We'll
who knows,
see.
maybe you'll get on the board,
Yeah.
and then they'll need an executive director.
And
one
here we
day,
are,
and
history
you'll be-
repeating
history
itself. Yeah.
repeats itself.
Wasn't that something? I didn't think of that. But don't tell. Nothing's personal, Ryan. We're not getting rid of you.
Oh no, that's what we know. This is in a new organization.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying,
Oh, all right,
I'm
all right,
saying
all right,
you'll be
listen.
a new group,
okay.
within Wakefield.
All right.
That will then you'll become the executive director over there. Yeah,
You can
so.
see where my mind's staying. It
Yeah,
hasn't
no,
left
no,
here yet.
no. Ryan's going to do a great
He's
job
gonna do a
here at
good job.
WCAT.
All right. Very good.
So thank
That's
you,
it.
Tom. And again, we
No, that's great.
really appreciate all your work with WCAT and as a local journalist and really a community leader. And we wish you all the best in your retirement. And we look
thank
forward to your retirement party,
All right.
December
very
4th,
good.
right?
December 4th. Yeah. Very good.
Yep.
And it's
Very
been
good.
great working with you over the time,
you.
and hopefully we'll be touching bases now and then too. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
All right.
All
Thanks
the
so
best.
much, Senator.